And welcome, everybody. We are excited about having you here today for our virtual roundtable for the IDEA Network IDEA members. We are glad you're here. Today, we're going to be hearing from Dennis Fountain, and we're going to be kicking off the new year right by talking to somebody from a great state of Washington. And I'm looking forward to hearing from Dennis in just a moment. But before we did, I hope you have a great new year. I hope you've had a great Christmas time. I hope that you're excited about the IDEA Summit that's coming up at the end of the month. We're only 4 weeks away, and if you haven't registered yet, we encourage you to do so. Thomas Osterkamp has questionable style most of the time. Most of the time, it's a questionable style. But for some reason today, I'm just drawn to you, Thomas. How you doing, man? It's good. Oh, is it the T-shirt? It is a nice T-shirt. I've got to say, I admire it. I would wear it too if I had the opportunity. Thomas, why don't you open us up in a word of prayer and ask God to bless our time of community, conversation, and collaboration as we discuss the next steps and what Dennis has to share with us today. Thomas, if you'll open us up in a word of prayer.
Most definitely. Our Heavenly Father, we just thank you once again for an opportunity to gather together with like-minded servants. God, we know in each one of these men's lives, in their churches and their ministries, there's things going on. There's things going on in their personal lives, God. And we don't always know the needs and what's happening, but you do. And we pray for each one of these ministry leaders right now that you provide for what they need. I pray that you would bless Dennis for spending some time encouraging us today and equipping us. And I pray that you use this time that we'd be ready to go and excited about the ministries and the places and the opportunities that you've given to us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Thomas. Good to see you guys here. We've had a couple weeks off, and I hope you guys have enjoyed the time away. I hope you had a good Christmas and a good New Year. It's always a weird time of year, and so we're just getting back into the saddle here in our offices. I'm sure you guys are the same, trying to get into a routine, but it is nice to have Dennis Fountain with us today. It's tough to find someone to speak in an in-between time, and I reached out to Dennis. He's going to talk about the family here in just a minute today, and I know he spent some time with his family just in preparation for what he's going to share with us, and I appreciate him doing that. As Josh said, the summit is just a few weeks away. It is this month. It starts at the very tail end of this month, and it is not too late for you to come and register. You can get a shirt that matches me and Josh and Thomas. You can come and get all of the merchandise that we've got.
And Josh Hargis.
That's right. Yeah, Josh Hargis. I didn't even see him on there. Good to see you guys with us today. We've still got guys popping into the waiting room, and so I'm excited about our conversation today. Dennis is a friend of mine. He's a friend to all of you guys on here that know Dennis personally, and I appreciate just his testimony, the work that he's doing in Washington State. Every time I'm around Dennis and talk to him, he's talking about his wife, or he's talking about his kids and his family. And so who better to speak into the family than Dennis? And I appreciate just the encouragement that he is to me. So Dennis, I'm going to go ahead and I've introduced you. I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can take it from here, man. Thanks for coming and being with us today.
All right, how's everybody doing? Thumbs up, doing well. No one's hungover from New Year's, hopefully, and I'm kidding. Man, I hope you guys had a happy New Year so far, and looking forward to what God has for us. Jason reached out about a month ago, and we started talking about doing another Idea Day Tuesday talk, and one of the questions one of the topics that he brought up is the idea of prioritizing the family in the new year. And that's something that we're going to talk about today. Got some questions, some things to look through. And I will say, kind of in preparation for this, I actually did reach out to my family. I sat down with my wife and kids, and I was like, hey, in the new year, what are some things that we've done over the last 4 or 5 years to help prioritize our family, and ask them for input. So I have a lot from them on some of this stuff. And then we'll go to some questions and get some thoughts from each of us that are in here. No doubt, many of you we could learn from. All of us have something to bring to the table on this discussion. So I hope that you'll not only listen, but then also have a mind to invest into all of us during this time. So, man, I don't have to really, I don't have to speak to it too much to say the Bible has a lot to say about prioritizing the family. And when you look at prioritizing the family, I think, of course, we understand God instituted the family, right? So we don't need to go through all the Bible principles. But last year, I was doing a study preaching through the book of Exodus. And my friend and your friend, Kurt Skelly, him and I were talking about the portion in Exodus when, of course, the children of Israel and Moses, they're out of Egypt, they're across the Red Sea, they've been now in some wandering for a few months. And in Exodus, I think it's Exodus 18, is where Jethro, you remember where Jethro brings Moses's wife and boys to Moses, and it's kind of a good family reunion. And then there's that passage where Moses he's instructing the people, but he's meeting with them every day, all day long. You guys know the part I'm talking about, where Moses is meeting with people all day, Exodus 18 and 19. And Jethro comes to him and says, what are you doing? Like, this is not a good idea. You are going to tire yourself out. And so, Moses, you need to delegate. One of the reasons I think, and again, we can't necessarily prove this, but one of the reasons I think that Jethro did that is Jethro was bringing his daughter, right? He was bringing his daughter and his grandchildren back to Moses. And Jethro knew that if Moses is going to be engaged all day with people, he's not going to have time for the people that I'm bringing into his life. Now, again, we can't, that's kind of some speculation of the reasoning behind it. But Jethro helped Moses understand the importance of delegation and the importance of not carrying the load yourself. I think in ministry, all too often, we carry the load ourselves, and the people who hurt the most from it are our spouses and our children. And all too often, in order to make up for lost time, we do the title of this session. The title of the session is We Make Empty Promises, or Making Empty Promises. We all have been there. We've all been to the place when you've said it, I've said it. We say, hey, I'll make this up to you. I promise I'll make this up to you. And if we're all honest today, I think we would all agree that ministry very often can become the top priority in our life when it should not be. You guys agree to that? I think we all agree to that. As pastors, as youth pastors, those in full-time service, whatever your ministry is, all too often we prioritize the ministry over the health of our family, and you try to recover by making an empty promise. Of course, many of you guys know my dad passed away in October of 2021, and my dad was very influential in my life. He was my mentor. He was my best friend. And my dad, many of you guys knew my dad. And one thing my dad, I can say this to the best of my knowledge, my dad only broke one promise my entire life. There was only one promise that my dad made that he broke. And the reason is because my dad was very careful to not make promises. And his whole mind, it wasn't like, well, I'm not going to promise that because I can't. His mindset was, if I promise it, I'm gonna keep it. And the only promise my dad ever broke was because of cancer. He promised me when he was 54, 55 years old, he promised me that he would play in a basketball tournament with me when he was 60 years old. And he couldn't do that because of cancer when he was 60 years old. And so, or because of his health when he was 60. That's the only promise I know that my dad broke to me. And the reason I bring that up is not to elevate my dad. It's to say that my dad had this mindset, I'm not going to make empty promises. So Dennis, why do you say that today? I say it because in this new year, I want to encourage you not to make empty promises to your family. And how you can do it is by prioritizing the family. And so I'm going to give you, in the next 8 to 10 minutes, I want to give you 5 things, 15 minutes, 5 things that you can do this year that these are kind of no-brainers. All right. There's not going to be anything that's just mind-blowing today. It's 5 things that I've tried to do, 5 things that I watched my dad do that I think will help each of us prioritize the family in the new year. Understanding, going back to that passage in Exodus, that delegation is key. We need to remember this. We need to be able to delegate to people and all of that stuff. But the 5 things I want to talk about very quickly. Number 1, if we're going to prioritize time with family, we've got to schedule it. All right, schedule time with family. You say, Dennis, that's not new. Yeah, it's not new, but the old leadership quote, what gets scheduled gets done. It is so true. Now, it's not always going to happen, but it's more likely to happen if it gets scheduled. Here's something I would encourage you to do. All of us have these nifty little contraptions now, our phones and calendars. I would encourage you to set a reminder for the first of every month that reminds you to schedule a date with your wife every month or your spouse, and a date with your children every month. Now, it may not be, those of you guys with multiple kids in the home, it may not be that you can do one, every kid one time per month, but the first of every month, have a reminder going off on your phone to schedule time with your family. Make sure you're scheduling your days off. I know a lot of guys on here, we try to protect our day off and try to protect our time. Man, keep that this next year. Keep that in this new year. Right now, it's January 3rd. When are you going out with your family? When are you taking your wife on a date? Next week, do you have your day off? Many of you guys are going to be going to the Idea Summit. Okay, that's awesome. And I'm glad that you're doing that. And that's going to be a time for the family, but that's not your days off. So don't schedule that to be your time off with your family. Schedule that to be a time away with your family where you're investing. But then maybe when you get back from that trip, you're going to take that Saturday and spend the afternoon with your family. If you're not traveling with your family, when you get back, you're going to spend that first night taking your wife to dinner and investing in your marriage. The idea is just to be able to schedule our time with our family, those date nights, those times with our kids and all of that. Number 2, so not only schedule it, but in order to help us prioritize our time, number 2 is this phrase. It's just simply 2 words. It's a simple thought, but you'll understand it when I say it. It's be present. Okay, be present. If we are going to prioritize time with our family, we have to be present. I mean that in a few ways. Number 1, in ministry, have you realized how many of you guys on here, you've been in ministry for 20 years or more? 20 years or more. Okay, so 5 of us have been in ministry for 20 years or more, 6 of us. If you've been in ministry for 20 years or more, you know this. But if you've been in ministry for 1 year or more, you know this. And here's the thought. Emergencies are always there. Right? Emergencies are always there. On your day off, that family is going to call with an emergency. Now, here's where we have to break it down. Who defines what an emergency is? Okay, if you have a day off and a family calls you and they're arguing and they need marriage counseling, in my book, that's not an emergency. They can wait till tomorrow. Now, if they call me and they say, hey, we got in a car wreck and we're at the hospital and it's my day off, okay, that's an emergency. My family understands that. I'm gonna put that day off to the side and invest in a family in our church who had a car wreck or whatever the case may be. But unfortunately, especially when we are new to a church, new to a ministry, or when we have a new family, anytime there's new, all too often we redefine what an emergency is. And so now we have people that capture or take our time away from our family for things that are not emergencies. And so when I say be present on your day off, be present on your day off. That emergency or their emergency, it can wait. Now, again, you understand I'm not talking about the car wrecks. I'm not talking about a death in a family. I'm talking about somebody calling you and saying, Pastor, I really need your help today. Put it to voicemail. Let it go. Listen to voicemail and spend time with your family. Be present. The other thing I want to say about being present, and I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings on this, but on your day off, put your cell phone away. That means like social media and Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and Snapchat and what's that new one? Be Real, the Be Real one I think guys are doing. Listen, I love you, but my 13-year-old son said this when I was talking to him about this lesson. I asked the family, hey, what are some things we can do to prioritize the family? And my son said, oh, Dad, you know what people need to know? They need to know that they can put their phones away. My 13-year-old said that. And here's why he said it. Everybody, and you guys get this, we live in a social media driven world. Everybody has to catalog their life on social media. And I'm not just saying put your phone away to miss the phone calls. I'm saying put your phone down and don't post that you're playing a board game. I'm saying put your phone away and don't post that you're eating mac and cheese with your kids. Put your phone away and don't post that you're on a date with your wife. Now, take a picture, post it later, do all of that. But all too often, we are so, Josh, you did play Catan, but that was a family night. It's fine, all right? Catan's okay to post. If you play Catan, you can post Catan anytime. That's what I'm saying. But listen, put your phone away. We all too often, right? We see people and we make fun of them. Like, hey, look what I'm having for lunch. Hey, check out my workout. Hey, check out this. And then our kids are sitting there as we're in family time scrolling Facebook or scrolling Instagram or whatever, because as soon as you post, you check to make sure it's posted. And then right underneath it, your buddy just posted something funny. And so you laugh at that. And pretty soon, 30 minutes of family time has been you and I spending time on a cell phone. Hey, put that away and be present. Like, put it down and don't miss it. You've seen that meme floating around of the golf tournament recently or last year. If you've seen this, and there's this amazing golf shot that took place and they scanned the crowd, and in the crowd, everybody had their phones up and doing everything. And there was one old man or old lady just off to the side, their hands down to the side, and their face was just lit up. And it said, live in the moment. You know what? We need, as pastors, we need that. If we're going to prioritize our time, stop having to catalog everything online, be present, live in the moment. Remember, I remember this. So Dennis, he's our oldest. He'll be 17 in just a few months. When he was born, I was at West Coast Baptist College, and Dr. Rasmussen, many of you know Dr. Mark Rasmussen. He was a very big influence. I appreciate Dr. R. And he said, I was holding Dennis. He was only 2 weeks old. And Dennis walked up to me and he looked at me and he said, Dennis, can I tell you something? I said, yes, sir. He said, you need to remember there are no redos. And I said, what do you mean? He said, you don't get another chance. You have one chance to raise your son. There's no reset button. You can't start the year over. You can't start 18 years over. You have one chance. You know what? Here I am with my oldest son about to graduate high school in a year. And many of you your kids are out of the house. Some of you still have toddlers. And I want to be reminded constantly, I only have one chance with my family, be present. All right. So number one, schedule it. Number two, be present. Number three, two more words, have accountability. Have accountability. We're talking about prioritizing our family. What can we do to prioritize our family in the new year? Schedule it. What gets scheduled gets done. Number two, be present. Number three, have accountability. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is I would ask you the question, who do you have in your life that can ask you about your time with your family and you'll be honest with them? What other pastor, what other friend can call you and say, hey, how's your family time? And you'll actually answer them and say, well, it's doing pretty well. It's doing okay. I have tons of friends that can do that in my life. One of them is on this call right now, Pastor Paul Connor, who pastors in Vancouver, British Columbia. Paul and I, we've been friends for many, many years. And Paul's one of the guys in my life that I give permission to ask me hard questions. And I have to tell him the truth. And the reason is because I want that. Now, the other person that should be able to ask me this question, and guys, we don't like to hear this, your wife should have full permission to tell you things are out of balance and you not blow up at her. I say this because I grew up in a pastor's home, and I'm thankful for the balance that my family had. And I watched my dad give my mom permission to say, his name was Dennis as well. She would say, Denny, things are out of balance. We need to figure this out. But then I also watched many of my pastor friends, pastor kid friends, who their dads were pastors, that I look at them now and they come to me and they say, Dennis, I literally had this in the last 2 years when right after my dad died, I had a pastor's friend call me and he said, Dennis, I wish my dad was your dad. And I said, why? And he said, because I watched your dad prioritize the family. Your dad invested in me. My friend said this, your dad invested in me more than my own father did. That's mind blowing to me. Now, I'm not saying that to elevate my dad. I'm saying I had an incredible example of this that I try to live up to, and prioritizing my family. It means I have accountability. There are people in my life that can speak to me and say things are not right now. Man, have a way to hold yourself accountable. I'm doing something new this year. In that I have my goals. I don't know if you guys do that. I set New Year's goals, and really it's not New Year's goals, New Year's growth, just areas I want to grow in the new year. But this year I'm doing something different where I actually have a weekly checklist regarding my new year growth that I'm holding myself accountable. Every Tuesday morning, I'm going to check my growth list and I'm going to see did I accomplish this last week? And if I didn't, I'm going to accomplish it this week, whether that's exercising or writing or in your study or reading or whatever it is. Have a way to hold yourself accountable for your family time too. Every week, check up. Did I invest in my family last week? If I didn't, schedule it for this week, get it done. All right. So number 1, schedule it. Number 2, be present. Number 3, have accountability. Number 4, this is a no-brainer. Have fun. Hey, if you're going to prioritize time with your family, make your time fun. You can turn anything into fun. So how many church planners do we have on here? If you're a church planner, raise your hand, or maybe restarting a church. Listen, if you've been in the church planting stage or the replanting stage, then you know that in like your first, I think it goes in segment, it goes in groupings, but your first like 3 years, you're trying to figure out balance, right? Like ministry and outreach and visiting families as well as your family. One thing that you can do is you can actually spend quality family time doing ministry things. Now you say, wait, Dennis, you totally just kind of like contradicted yourself because you said put emergencies away and schedule it. But now you're telling us we can have family time doing ministry things. The idea is this, that you do not have to be away to have fun as a family. Okay. I've referenced my dad quite a bit, and I don't necessarily apologize for that. I hope it doesn't get tiresome. My dad prioritized me when we were younger, in that some of my favorite memories with my dad in ministry and him prioritizing are the times when my dad would take me on a ministry opportunity, whether that be a hospital visit or going to the church early on a Sunday morning to unlock. My dad made it fun because he did a number of things. He usually made a game out of it. When I was like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, he made a game out of it. Who could unlock the doors the fastest? Who could turn the lights on the fastest? But he always bought me Daylight Donuts. We had a Daylight Donuts in Greeley, Colorado, where I was raised. My dad always bought me Daylight Donuts when I went somewhere. My dad, he recognized I'm doing ministry, but I need to invest in my son right now. I'm going to make this fun for him. And it made it to the point where when I was like 14, 15 years old, when most teens are like, oh, I don't want to go with dad. I was like, Dad, I want to go with you. I don't care what you're doing while I have a hospital visit, someone dying. I don't care. Dad, I want to spend time with you. And my dad made it where it was just fun. He made spending time with him fun. So know that you can make ministry opportunities fun, and that's a way of prioritizing your family. But then the other thing is that you should have fun outside of ministry. Find some things that you can do that everybody has fun. Here's what one of my kids said in this area about having fun. They said this to challenge the pastors with this: don't just have your kind of fun, have the fun that your kids want to have. What do you mean, Dennis? I don't play video games anymore. I'm sorry. Some of you guys are like, man, I'm a gamer. I don't do video games anymore. Something clicked when I was like 35, 36, 37 years old. And I'm just like, it's annoying to me. Now, I still want to play video games though. Why? Because my kids love video games. And so if my sons are like, hey, Dad, can you play this with me? They know my answer is going to be, but you know what? My answer should be, hey, yeah, let's go do that. Let's play that. We love board games. And lately our game of choice for our family has been the game Clue. Over Christmas break, there was one day we played 3 games of Clue right in a row, just back to back to back. Why did we do that? Because my daughter, she's 15, she loves Clue. And she was like, let's do that. So find games that you guys can play. Philip Jones just posted Cards Christians Like. If you don't have that game, you need to play it. It's hilarious. We played it the other night at a game night at our church. We had like 25 people sitting around the table, dying laughing, playing that game. Now, if you have Baptist in your history, they make fun of Baptist a lot in it. So I'm sorry, but you'll be fine. But find games, find things you can do where you can have fun together. And man, one of the stages of life we're in right now is just sitting around the living room and laughing. Hey, when's the last time you just sat around together, put the phones away and just hung out, just laugh together, tell corny jokes. There's some great dad jokes out there that you could find that my kids, I've been going through a couple Twitter accounts that have dad jokes. Now, some of them you're not going to tell your kids, okay? But there's some of them that my boys, they just die laughing at and my wife laughs at. And right now we're at the stage, all of our kids are teenagers. I love spending time in our living room around the fire, literally just laughing, hearing them make fun of each other and tell me about their day at school. And someone asked me years ago, do you ever ask your kids pointed questions in your discussion time? And we started doing that. What made you laugh today? What made you smile today? How did someone encourage you today? What did you do to encourage someone else today? And we talk through those things. It's just having fun together. All right. So number 1, schedule it. Number 2, be present. Number 3, be accountable. Number 4, have fun. And last, and this is just we'll close with it, is be humble. Be humble in your family time. You know, some people miss out on time with their family because of their pride. And here's what I mean by that. Some guys, their family time is always only what they want to do. Family time is what dad says. And if it doesn't go the way that dad wants it, dad's frustrated. Okay, I'm a planner. I plan vacations. I plan where we're going, when we're going there. I plan how much time we're going to spend there. Now, I'm not like Josh Tice that I go through and have my little Excel sheet that has all the times and everybody gets that emailed to them. I don't do that, but I do like to plan. Well, here's what I realized in some of our vacations, that if things didn't go the way I planned that day, I was more irritable. Now, we all know this. An irritated parent is not fun to be around. Okay, what do I need to do? I need to humble myself. And I need to realize that it's okay. It's okay that we had to make 2 or 3 extra bathroom breaks when I don't want to stop. It's okay that we took longer at that rest stop than I wanted to. It's okay that I had to, pay an extra $15 at lunch because my son wanted a steak instead of a taco. It's find things to just say, God, help me to be humble so that I can spend time with my family. I don't always have to do what I want to do. It's okay to ask your wife what she wants to do and do it. It's okay to go shopping. It's okay to play that video game. It's okay that I don't have to go to my sports game. It's okay that I don't have to watch that football game because we had family night planned that night. It's okay. Just be humble in that. Be humble. And my wife suggested this in our notes as we were talking. One thing of humility is to learn your spouse's love language and learn your children's love languages. We had Dr. Chapman on a few months ago, and it was a great talk. I think it's in our video history that you can go online and you can find that. Hey, go on and figure out the love language of your family and be humble enough to love your family that way. A couple of my kids, their love language, and my wife, their love language is, all three of them are acts of service. That is not my love language. Mine is physical touch and words of affirmation. But acts of service, my oldest son, he loves acts of service, but he loves quality time. So I need to find a way to invest quality time with him while investing acts of service with my wife. It has to be done from a humble attitude. And so we could, of course, go on and continue on that, but I've taken my time. So again, those 5 things: prioritizing our family, schedule it, be present, have accountability, have fun, and then lastly, be humble. And then I would say this as we close, as I turn it back over to Jason for questions, I just would encourage you guys, the absolute truth, you will never, ever, ever regret the time you spend with your family. You will not regret it. If you do it right, you will not regret it. Pastors' homes right now, if you look across our nation, pastors' homes are one of the leading homes that see their children walk away from God when they exit the family's house. Why is that? I've grown up in a pastor's home. I'm related to more pastors than many people than the pastors that many people know. I think at one time we have 11 people in my family that are in ministry. Okay. I can tell you right now, the biggest mistake that pastors make in their home, outside of a hypocritical life, being one way at home and one way at the other, the biggest mistake that most pastors make is they miss time with their family and their kids feel neglected and leave thinking, I am not going to treat my family the way I was treated. So I just encourage you, have those 5 thoughts. You'll have some thoughts you add to it. Make family time a priority and stop making empty promises about it.
Awesome job, Dennis. Thanks for that talk. That was good. That's something that all of us need. And I put those 5 questions. He has 5 discussion questions for us today. Instead of breaking up, we're just going to stay right here in this main room. Let me go through these real quick, and then we'll start with some discussion. What fights against you prioritizing your family? What are some ways you regain balance in your family time? What are some inexpensive ways you can invest time into your family? What resources have helped you in this area? And what are you going to do to protect yourself from making empty promises? I like the fact that he incorporated his wife and kids into his talk. It makes it a little more authentic and genuine for what he had to say. So let me throw it to you guys with question number 1, and feel free to jump in. What fights against you prioritizing your family? What is your primary opposition when it comes to family time for you personally? Anyone want to start? Yeah, James, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Something that I thought of is and I think this is true for ministry too, but we don't count our wins. And so when I think of looking back on the last year and I look at what are the good things that happened in our family, like taking note of that and saying, we can go and recreate that. We don't always have to create something new or do something new. But I think recognizing what are the good moments that we had in our family and when did that make my daughter, light up, and trying to go back and recognize and redo those victories.
Good point. Who else wants to jump in? What's the biggest opposition you've got right now for your family time? Yeah, Josh Hargis, I see you.
I don't struggle with this as much as I used to, but it was always, I felt accountable to the church members that I pastored. And so it was very difficult for me to enjoy the family time because I felt like I had to answer every call or text everybody back. Or I felt like I couldn't take a day off because church members were contributing and paying my salary. And so it was very difficult in those probably the first 7, 8 years of ministry. It was really hard for me to take time, enjoy time. I felt guilty within that. But over the years since then, I can't agree more with Dennis when he said, you'll never regret the time that you spend with your family. I have rebuilt a relationship with my wife. I've been able to enjoy my children in a way that I've never been able to before, because I've been able to put away some of that guilt or that feeling accountable to the church members.
Well said, Josh. Thanks for sharing that. Who else? Biggest opposition to family time? Andrew?
My biggest opposition was my study time for my sermons. What I mean by that is the time that I did it. We had family time, but I wasn't present because I get so stuck thinking about and always mulling over my sermon prep. And so what Robbie Green had preached about, I think right around a month ago, where you just got to schedule that at the right time, get it done at the beginning of the week. So you're not Friday, Saturday, still really thinking over that kind of stuff. It wasn't a matter of being with my family. It was the fact that I was always somewhere else thinking sermon illustrations. How am I going to get through this point? That kind of stuff. So reprioritizing my sermon prep has really helped in this area to make sure that I'm present.
Nice. Anyone else want to jump in on number one?
Yeah, I'd say
Yeah.
for me it was it's not just a matter of scheduling, it's also understanding who I am, like what my personality is like. I'm not a planner. I go fly by the seat of my pants in everything that I do, and I enjoy it and I don't want to change. But my wife is a planner. And so what I don't plan won't happen, even though I could make it happen, because I don't work with my wife, or hadn't been working with my wife to meet her needs and what she needs planned, what she needs scheduled, just because I don't need to schedule it. She needed that. So understanding who I was and how I derive joy from what we're doing, and being able to work that with her, as well as my daughter gets to that 10, 11 years old, she also has her love language, and the boys, they may not care, but being able to meet those needs based on, hey, who am I and how do I make sure that I bring my best to the table to make sure it happens.
Yeah, right on. Tony, I saw you were getting ready to jump in there. Go ahead.
I was going to say probably ourselves. We give of ourselves all day, counseling, dealing with people and things like that. And it's just easy to check out when you get home. You know, just you're tired and you just zone out or get by yourself. So, I mean, I think we have to fight against just, I guess you could say, being lazy. You know, just after you give of yourself all day and then you get home and you just want to check out, but that's when they need us. So just being honest.
Yeah, I appreciate your honesty. Mine's my phone. I mean, honestly, when I'm in the office, I'm not on the phone doing anything. And so when I get home, it's like, man, let me check what I missed today. And I can't, because that's time with my kids. And then when I lay my kids down, it's time with my wife and I want to get on my phone. I can't do that either. So it's like, I need to just throw my phone in the microwave for a couple of days or something, you know? But yeah, I feel a lot of those distractions myself. I think being present was the one that stuck out the most to me personally. Any other thoughts on number one before we move on? Yeah, Larry.
I'm at a slightly different stage, I think, than most of the guys on here. My kids I have one left in high school. He's going to graduate next year. And so I still have that pull, but I have two that are in college or back and forth between college. And then I have one that's married. And so I have really a competition of adult schedules to work with. We're all still closely knit, but we all have opposing schedules. Even my wife now works at the school that my son attends. And so we're constantly trying to figure out that day off with the church calendar, with our calendar. And it's been a battle the last couple of years trying to figure out the adult version of prioritizing time as a family, because all of our kids are at that latter stage of being in the home. And so that's really been our big struggle, is prioritizing everyone's calendars together and coming up with family time or family night or things like that. And so it's a little different than most of the guys who have total control over their kids' calendars. But for me, I've got adult children that still live connected to the home and a wife that works outside of the ministry. And so that there's a lot of moving calendars trying to plug those all together.
Thanks, Larry. Anyone else want to jump in here? All right, let's move to number 2. Question 2 is really for those of us that have found that we've gotten out of balance. It's what are some ways you can regain balance in family time? Maybe for you, there was a time when you realized a lot of the things Dennis was talking about were you, and you had to kind of reassess, reprioritize. Anyone want to talk about that kind of transparently? I was out of whack and had to get back. Any tips on that?
Jason, for years, I did not prioritize my family like I should. And when we were on deputation before moving to California, a veteran missionary told me, he said, he asked my son, "When's your family day?" And my son kind of laughed nervously and looked at me, and missionary turned to me, grabbed my arm, punched me, and said, in the arm, and he said, "Fix that now." And ever since then, we made Tuesday our family day, and my family is gracious to usually give me this time to grow a little bit myself here on this call, but for the most part, Tuesdays are exclusively for the family. The one I guess a little bit of a regret that I have is we put that in practice and everything, and not long after we started doing that, my oldest son went to college. So he has really never been able to be, except for that time on deputation, he's never really been able to be much of a part of our family day, except like during summer or whatever like that. But since he's gotten an adult job, a real job, it's kept him from it. And so like Larry, we're constantly trying to balance this and that. And when things do step in and take precedence on our Tuesday, then we've just determined we're going to make it happen on another day. We just make it happen. And just like, we all preach about Daniel purposed in his heart and all of this, we just have to purpose in our heart that our family is priority, and we have to make it happen. Because as Dennis said, you're not going to get a second chance.
Yeah, that was a powerful story that you told, Dennis, about no redos. That was a powerful concept. Thanks, Philip. Who else? Number 2. Any other thoughts on getting back into balance with family time, regaining that? Yeah,
I'll
Jerry?
say, go ahead, Jerry.
Okay, real quick. Yeah, I think along the lines of everyone else, it was learning to schedule things out. I was running, and personal goals, ministry goals, whatever it is. And those were fighting against my priorities. But regaining that balance, I think it was said in here, I'm not sure if it was said in here by a friend, but it was said this way, similar to Dennis, how you stated it. But you can find another job. You can always find other things, other facets, but you can't get another family and or other kids or anything like that, right? And that kind of helped me get a good perspective on my children and everything like that. And so it was, a lot of it was scheduling, sitting down and scheduling and spending time outside of me and my wife's personal date time, spending time scheduling out like, hey, what's going to get done? What are we going to do? What are we going to accomplish? Where are we going to travel to? Because a lot of times it was like our time off was just at home. Okay, the kids are just going to play at home or, do something at home instead of going hiking or going to the park or, doing something more an event with the kids. And so that was how we kind of regained our balance, was, as Dennis, you stated, is scheduling it out, right? Having those conversations with the family, asking your kids what they want to do. Dennis, I love the way that you said, like, hey, what made you smile today? Because when you find out what makes them smile, what made them laugh, what events they enjoyed, what vacations, whatever you may, do, what the places that you eat out that they enjoyed. We can come back to those and say, hey, we're going to do that, next week. We're going to go back to that park. And that's been a big way that we've rebalanced and kind of rescheduled our lives.
Yeah, I was going to just add this on that thought of ways that you regain balance in your family time. I think one of the best ways that we can regain balance is learn to say no. Even learn to say no to things that you really want to do. I'm actually living that this month, and that is, and Jason and I were just talking about it, but of course the summit that's coming up, I was scheduled to speak and to be there and everything, but because of some other things that have happened, I've had to cancel being able to come to that. And unfortunately, I hate it because I love the Idea Network events. I was made fun of for saying Idea Day, but that's what it was called for a lot of years. And so I apologize. I am one of those guys that's been around for a long time. But I want to come. But in all honesty, my wife and I were talking, and I knew that it would not be healthy for my family because I couldn't bring my family on that trip because of another trip that came up in February where I'm able to take my boys to Israel with me. And honestly, that's why I canceled. I would rather spend time with my sons in Israel than be gone for another 4 days to see you guys. I love you guys, but they, I want to do that. So, sometimes to rebalance or to regain that balance, we have to say no to things that we maybe really want to say yes to. But all my kids will be out of the house in 5 years, so I'll be able to say yes to everything I want to say yes to, because that'll be our time, right? So, just being able to say no to things, I think, is a huge way to regain balance in your family.
Yeah, for sure. So you're choosing your kids over hanging out with us. We get it. I appreciate your time today, though, Dennis. What else on number 2? Any other thoughts before we move on? Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, King. One of the things I appreciate at the end of the year, a pastor gives us a list of the complete next year, just like all of this year, of can't miss dates. So once I have that, I'm able to, start plugging in the holes where I can spend time. So I greatly appreciate that. And I know I'm not conflicting with the events I have to be at during the year. So that helps.
Solid. All right, number 3, what are some inexpensive ways you can invest time into your family? One of the things Jerry just mentioned was going on a hike, going out to a park. I think those are great, inexpensive options. Any other thoughts you guys have got on something cheap or inexpensive you can do to spend time with your family? Any thoughts there? Yeah, go ahead, Adam.
This was really good, Dennis. I appreciate it very much. One of the things that I've done, my son has had a very hard time 3 years ago when I went into full-time ministry. So leaving home, he'd been used to for 10 years almost. So I've had to really, even now, still, since we came to Georgia here 6 months ago, is we've invested for the last 2 years. Each Saturday we go out to breakfast, whether it's something simple, Dennis mentioned, having that time at least once a month with your children. But he's the one I've had to invest with the most because he misses his grandparents, he misses his cousins, he misses the family. They're 6 hours away now. So that's the kind of way I've really invested time with him, is each week we just go out to eat. If I can't work it out on a Saturday because something else is planned from a church event wise, I make it up to him.
That's great. Any other ideas? Yeah, Justin.
One thing that if you're living close to a big city that I found just as a cool resource, I don't know if it'll work for you, but it's been great for us. There's a company called Pogo Pass. Pogo Pass is almost like you're buying 50 different events or tickets to museums or sporting events or something like that you all buy at like one time for the year. And they're usually like third tier, like practice squads and stuff like that. But what it did is it forced us to have to get out and actually do it. So maybe investing, trying to find something where you can get a lot of stuff where you're forced to have to use it or you wasted money. might be one of those. I think it cost us for our whole family about $250 for the year. And we were able to do quite a bit with it.
That's awesome. Great idea. You said that was called Pogo Pass?
Pogo Pass. Yep. I know it's in like at least 10 cities of your major metropolitan areas. So
Cool. All right, number 4, I want to get to this one. What resources have helped you in this area? Any other resources, books you've read, websites, podcasts, any resources you guys have got that you'd share that have helped you in this area? Yeah.
Yeah.
Josh.
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
All right. I was just going to say, a book, Be Where Your Feet Are by Scott O'Neill is fantastic. And one of those books that really convicted me on making sure I put my phone down and just be in the moment, wherever that is.
Nice. Thanks. Go ahead, Josh.
I think it was Dangerous Callings was a good book that kind of put some things in perspective or to be aware of. And then I would, obviously we're all part of the Idea Network because we're here right now, but probably 3-4 years ago, I was sat in a session that Josh Tice and his wife was leading at one of the Idea Days or an Idea Summit, whatever it was called at that time. And in just talking about a spouse being a part of ministry and family priorities and things like that, that's really what put a lot of things in perspective, was just an open conversation with other ministry leaders. And so the Idea Day or the Idea sessions are always a good place to glean that information from and really start to cultivate your own life in a way that you can help others when other people invested in you when you needed it the most.
Thanks, Josh. Josh Williams, you're up.
My wife and I don't have kids yet, and we use the Adventure Time book. It's like different date ideas, but I know they have one for families as well. So it gives you free ideas under $50, and it's just creative, fun dates and events that are, you don't have to think it through. It's just boom right there.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Any other thoughts? All right, any last minute comments, questions for Dennis? All right. I think we've all been challenged today, and Dennis, I appreciate your time sharing with us today. Good talk. You can find Dennis. He's at Moses Lake. You can find his wife. He left her website there for her art in the background. Dennis, move your head so we can see the art a little bit better. Yeah, look at that. She's a phenomenal artist. He included her link, and you can go check out her art. You can purchase that online. Thomas has got a podcast. There's a plug there. Any other plugs? I think we're doing great today. Hey, I appreciate you guys coming. I know it's still close to the holiday, but we're going to wrap up. Next week, we have got the Dr. Dave Tice. Right before you guys came on, Josh was helping his dad figure something out electronically, and that's going to be the case next week as well. You do not want to miss next week, Josh Tice with Dr. Dave Tice. And we'll be back next week, same time, same place. See you guys. Have a good week thinking outside the box. Dennis, thanks again, man. You guys take care.
Hey, real quick.
No, go ahead.
One more resource is Philip Jones' phone number. I just put it in the chat. He wants you guys to contact him on Tuesday.
We'll sign off with that. Have a good week, guys.
There you go.